Well, as spring moves along, a lot of times we think our crepe myrtles didn't make it through the winter because they seem like the last shrub to start leafing out on us. But never fear, our crepe myrtles have made it through the winter very well, and it's time to go ahead and cut them back. Now, crepe myrtle pruning can be almost a little bit divisive. I've noticed it can be a source of arguments between husbands and wives just when to cut back a crepe myrtle and how to do it. And so we're going to go over that. And believe it or not, it's really kind of a matter of personal preference as to how you want to maintain them. Now, this crepe myrtle, we are maintaining it in more of a shrub type form. So we cut it back fairly low every year. Now, as you look at it, you can see down here that it was cut back about 3 feet above the ground last year, fairly uniformly through here. And that's basically what we're going to do to this again. We're just going to cut it back to the same level here. We can come along above some buds and just start cutting back. Now this is basically just shearing it off at a certain level, and you'll notice that how tall this crepe myrtle actually got in 1 year. So cutting it back this far really doesn't hurt it at all. It does keep it in this nice uniform habit. Now, different crepe myrtles grow to different sizes, all the way from dwarf crepe myrtles or miniature crepe myrtles that can only be 2 to 3 feet tall, up to standard crepe myrtles that can get 15 to 20 feet tall. And you have a lot of leeway in how you prune them, but we're going to go ahead and take this back down. Now, there is another way that you can maintain your crepe myrtle, and that is more in a tree type form. Now, this crepe myrtle is one of the large standard crepe myrtles that we currently, again, maintain in a shrub-like form. And you can even see as you look down here that in the past, it's frozen clear back down to the ground and we've had to cut it off down here. And this is always a possibility with crepe myrtles in Oklahoma, that some years, if there's nothing living up above, you'll have to cut them back down to the ground and start over. Now, while this one's already been trimmed here at 5 feet, it'll get about 15 feet tall on us this summer, and we basically cut it down to about this level every year. Now, this would actually be a very good candidate to choose if we wanted to maintain it in a tree form. And in order to do that, we would basically pick out an odd number of these stems, and you can see right here the bark on this as it gets older is very, very pretty, and that's one of the reasons why we like to maintain them more in a tree form. Now, one of the reasons that we don't do it more often in Oklahoma is, again, the fact that some years will freeze completely to the ground. But what we could do is choose several of these stems, and we would basically just clean them up. And what I mean by that is we'd come along, say if we chose this one right here, we would come along here and we would start down here and we would just remove everything right at the main trunk, very flush with the main trunk, and work our way up and make this all smooth. And we would leave this at the top and let it sprout out. Again, we could do that with this one. We could cut this off right here. We could also move on down, and you'll notice right down here how this comes out. We could cut it off right here. We would basically clean up some of these trunks, and some of these smaller ones, we would take them out completely down at the base. And what we would end up with would be several clean trunks that would sprout out here at the top. So if you want to maintain your crepe myrtle in more of a tree form, just pick some of your larger trunks. You might want to make sure that they're living before you do this, because you're going to want to prune anything that's dead out of the tree. But again, just pick some of your larger trunks, remove some of this that's growing straight up in the middle that isn't quite as pretty, and then clean those trunks up and let them sprout from the top, and you can have a tree-like crepe myrtle.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.